what you're going to see now is me just walk you through Callhero platform from the owner and manager's point of view. So you can see exactly what this would look like if you and your team were to sign up. Now, I'm sure it might vary from location to location, but what type of phone setup do you have in the clinic there? Do you know, is it a VoIP phone setup, a landline?
No, it's a landline in all locations.
Okay, perfect. So that's really easy, actually. How it would work with a landline is we'd actually send you a little physical box that plugs into the back of your phone, and we can begin tracking all your calls that way. So it's really as simple as plug and play. And the nice thing about that is that once we are plugged into your phones, you can log in anywhere at any time and have full visibility to your front desk in the phones just by logging into Callhero, like I'm going to do right now.
Nice. So when we have multiple phones in multiple clinics, like some clinics have two lines as well, does it still work the same way with the one box, just plugs in and you're good to go?
Absolutely. Yeah, we can work with one line, two line. We have some with like 7 lines, so no worries there. The lines won't affect the price or the quality of the recordings or anything.
Perfect.
Yeah. Awesome. So when you log into Callhero, the first page that you hit is what we call the dashboard page here. Now, your dashboard page is like your Callhero home base, and it virtually shows you all the important phone metrics that your clinic needs, starting with your phone performance table here, which shows you the journey from the total incoming calls all the way down to the booked new patients in your schedule. Now, this data comes in real time, so you can choose whatever time frame you want to view, all the way down to the day, the week, the month, the year, whatever. I'm just going to choose the last week, for example, here. So the first section is pretty straightforward. It shows you the total incoming calls, the missed calls, and the answer rate for that time period. Now, we didn't touch on this too much on our previous call, but have you ever had concerns about phone calls just being missed, or how do you feel your team does in that regard?
Yeah, like sometimes I do, because not everyone will leave a message. Lots of the time, if we don't get to the phone in time, the person will hang up and not leave a message. Sometimes they'll call back. I mean, we've had people say, I've called 3 times, and we'll be like, you know what, we're very sorry, it's very busy right now. So that is one thing I do have concern of, because not everyone wants to leave a message.
Yeah, that's a really good point there, Kyle. What we've discovered is that a lot of times it's new patients who are actually unlikely to leave a voicemail. Like if they're existing, they're much more likely to leave a voicemail. They'll wait for you to get back. But if they're new, oftentimes they're just shopping around. And if you don't get that call, they'll call somewhere else. It's very rare that someone is hounding you 3 or 4 times until you pick up. I know I would probably just call somewhere else, right? So that's definitely a concern.
That's what I would do too.
Yeah, exactly. So just to give you a bit of background data there, we've tested thousands of clinics, and the average clinic before using Callhero only has about a 70% answer rate, right? So they're missing quite a bit of calls there. Your clinic very well could be higher, but our goal is to have our clinics answering 90 to 95% of those calls coming in. So as you can do, a really good job at about 94%. Do you currently have any sort of targets for your front desk team? And if they hit those targets, is there any sort of recognition that goes along with that? Or how does that work with your team there?
No, we don't have any targets, or, you know, you have to answer so many or book so many. We don't have any of that in place.
Okay. Is there any, not necessarily with like the booking or answer, but any other sort of targets or metrics that they work off of, or not at the moment with your team?
No, not at the moment.
Okay. And you know what, that's super common. It is very tough with the front desk because a lot of their role is pretty subjective. It's hard to get some, you know, third-party, reliable, objective data to measure them on. But what we recommend doing is actually setting some clear targets for them specifically when it comes to the phones, right? That's their number one revenue generating task. So as I just said, we recommend a 95% answer rate and a 75 to 80% booking rate. And when they hit those targets, that's a really good opportunity to actually recognize and reward them for that hard work, right? It doesn't have to be money. It can be anything from like, you know, even a verbal recognition, maybe some coffees, maybe a lunch. You know, some of our clients with multiple locations like yourself have like monthly competitions. So highest answer rate gets a free lunch or dinner on the clinic or something like that, right? Just to kind of make it fun for the team. But do you see that might be able to work in your location there? Your location, sorry?
Yeah, I mean, we occasionally do lunches as a thank you to our team, but I mean, offering the recognition as to why we're thanking them as well, not just for doing what they're told to, but you know, when they go above and beyond, because everybody should be, I guess it's not tracked, but everyone should be asking, you know what, would you like to book your next appointment? When would you like to book again? Like always asking when a client is leaving the clinic when they'd like to book again.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it goes a good way. That's a good point you just mentioned there. Obviously, it's great to thank your team whenever, they're working hard, but if you can tie those recognition rewards to like a specific action they're taking, that just reinforces it, right? And it also helps not have them view Callhero as a tool that you're going to use just to yell at them every time they miss a phone call. That's not the
Yeah.
goal. It is to just find some areas where you can improve, work together. When you do, recognize them for their hard work. So I like that you already are doing that a bit, but a bit more accuracy could help out there. And just to let you know, if you did have multiple locations like yourself, we have that all broken down. So right now we're looking at one location, but you would simply just use this drop-down menu here, and you can go between all 7 of your locations
Oh,
there.
nice.
Yeah. So that has a really big impact. You'd be surprised how big of an impact just simply measuring your team has on the phones. It really prioritizes in their mind that answering the phones is their number one priority, because now they're being tracked, right, and rewarded for it. That being said, we do have another feature here if you want to get a bit more analytical with it. So if you go to the report section, we can actually show you like hour by hour, day by day, when your calls are coming in and being missed. So if you go to the averages
Oh,
section,
really?
yeah, so you can break it down. Like, for example, I'm looking at the average Monday in a clinic here. So you can see exactly hour by hour historical data of when you get calls in that day, when those calls are being missed. So you can staff your clinic accordingly, assign certain duties throughout the day at the right times. You can get creative with it, but just to have that back end data, along with those psychological, more motivational factors we just talked about, that has a really big impact on your answer rate there, if you see how
Well,
that
that
works.
also helps for staffing purposes too. I mean,
Exactly.
when I know the phones are extremely busy and we're going to be missing calls, that's when I can bring someone else in to make sure none of those calls are missed.
Exactly. Sometimes, the front desk is like, I am literally overwhelmed. I can't get to all the calls. And sometimes you're like, I don't know if you actually are. But once you have this data and you're seeing, hey, they're actually trying to handle like 40 calls an hour by themselves, they need some help up there, right? And now you have
Yeah.
the third party objective data to help you. So exactly what we recommend using that section for. Yeah. Awesome. So that's the answer rate section there. Really important. Nothing can happen on the phones unless they are answered. So you want to get that as high as possible. But the next section is where it gets really cool. We can actually show you what happens when those phone calls are answered. So we can tell you how many calls came from new patient opportunities, how many
Oh,
booked with you or did not book with you. If they did not book with you, we can actually show you the overall reasons as to why they didn't book with you. So let's say price is a big issue or availability. You can actually go in and get a bit more detailed and listen to each of those calls. All these calls are recorded, by the way, so you can listen to them. So you can see who took the call, what their issue was, and what the recording is, the overall booking rate. And you can break this all down by individual front desk employee. So you know exactly how well everybody's doing and when and where they might need some additional support or training over the phones there. So
so how does it
yeah.
track by the person? Is it just when they answer and say their name?
Yeah, good question. So let me explain how all this data is categorized here. So every call that comes into your clinic is voice recorded, which you have full access to. What we've done on our end is our engineers have actually created an algorithm. So using voice recognition technology, our software goes through those voice recordings and picks out keywords and key phrases to categorize all those calls accordingly. Our
Oh, that's
technology,
cool.
yeah, our technology is very good. But we do have human auditors that go and make sure it is accurate, so they get in there as well. So the combination of that can make sure all the calls are categorized accordingly. And to answer your question there, when you sign up with Callhero, what you would do is go to this Add Staff button here in the top right corner, and you would basically add the name of anybody who's going to be answering the phones at your clinic. And when they say, hey, this is Lisa, how can I help you today? It'll automatically get categorized into their name slot there, if that makes sense.
Nice.
Yeah. Bit of a mouthful, but in short, what you want to pull from that, Kyla, is there's no manual entry on anybody's part in your clinic. Every time you log in, all this data will be there, up to date, accurate for you.
That is awesome.
Yeah, very easy. The last thing you want to do is put more work on you or your front desk
Yeah.
plate. So that doesn't work out too well. We've tried that in the past, but it doesn't work out so well. So and now that we've gone through the data, briefly described how we get it, I'm really curious to hear from your perspective and your kind of vantage point in the clinic there. What are maybe one or two ways you could actually see yourself using some of this data? There's no right or wrong answer. I'm just kind of curious where your mind is going initially.
Well, in this, once again, it would to see when our call volumes are highest to make sure we have proper staffing in, because at times I get, you know what, the phones were busy. I'm not
Yeah.
at the clinics, and I always want to, you know, take the word of my team, but it's just to see, okay, how busy are the phones and what kind of missed opportunities are there? Like, does it warrant bringing someone else in just to make sure
Yeah.
all those calls are being answered? And then
Yeah.
also to see what happens on the calls at times, because sometimes we have people, and I'm always, you know, the last resort when there's an issue. They send them to me, and oh, this person was very rude to me, this and that. I can actually listen to the
Yeah.
call and be able to tell, okay, what actually happened on the call, and be able to handle those situations better. Because once again, I'm always
Right.
going based on, you know, what my team says, what the client says. So you never know which, well, everyone has their own view of how
Yeah.
things go.
Exactly. That recording is a lifesaver in that situation for sure. So I could see why that would be valuable there. Yeah.
Yeah, and my boss is huge on stats. He's big on
Oh,
stats. So for him to see the call volumes coming in and to see what's going on with the phones, I think he, like, as soon as he showed me the report section, I'm like, Scott will love that.
yeah. When you're managing that many locations, like there's just so many calls. It's so hard to do it without some sort of tracking system. So I mean, you can't manage what you can't measure, right? So I could see why someone overseeing such a large operation would like kind of simple data right at your fingertips, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So the next thing, and those are really good points, by the way. The next thing that I wanted to ask you and focus on, you mentioned on a previous call, the reason you had kind of reached out to us for that mystery call was you just wanted that kind of outside perspective, objective point of view as to how your staff are handling those incoming calls, right? With this booking right section here, we can break all that down for you. Now, logistically in your clinics there, like if you were to actually use this data to work on and train your team, how would that look? Do you have like office managers at each location who might do that, or would you, that's, I mean, it's a lot for you to do, but you know what I mean, how would you actually do that on like a weekly basis in terms of using this system there?
For this, I don't think I would put the office managers in charge of that. I would probably be the one to oversee it.
Okay.
And because sometimes it's the office manager that we're having the
Oh,
issue
right.
there's
Yeah,
the concern with,
good point. Yeah,
right?
yeah. Right,
You
right.
know, I've run into that situation where, well, I got this call from this woman and this is what I was fine, you know, like if the office manager's dealing with it. So I think I would like to oversee it. I mean, I would send them the data to show, you know what, these are the how many calls are coming in. um, you know,
Yeah,
I would definitely oversee it, but have it open so that I would give feedback to everybody. And so
right.
the owners would know what's going on, and the clinic managers and the office managers.
Got it. Yeah, that's a good point. Sometimes it is the office manager that needs a bit of coaching and training as well, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
you think about that. So that's excellent. So with this now, it makes your life quite a bit easier. You can really, we really tried to make it as efficient and easy as possible for you. So instead of listening to, you know, every single phone call that came in or working with every single front desk employee every week, what we recommend you do, what we've seen has worked really well just to make it efficient and effective, is look through your list of front desk employees at the beginning of every week and just see who's having some trouble, right? So right off the
Hmm.
bat, you can easily see that, hey, Kim is only booking 50%. We need to work with her. You're losing a lot of opportunity over the phones there. So you can narrow it down to those exact new patient calls that she spoke with and did not book. So you can click on this red number 6 right here, or sorry, the number 6 right there, open in call logs, and you can literally see all those new patient opportunities that called and spoke with Kim, what their initial objection was, and you have a recording of the call right there. So when you do actually call her or sit down and train her, you know exactly where she's struggling, when she's struggling, and you have some real life examples. So it's not Kyla's opinion or your thoughts. It's like, hey, this is the data. We need to work on
Yeah.
that. Now,
No, I really like that.
yeah. And what might be actually really useful for you, because you can't be in 7 places at once, we have this feature here called our training call section. You can actually send your staff training calls just remotely. So let's say, for example, you're at home, but you see there is a kind of a bad call you want them to work on. You can click, for example, hey, this person called and didn't book because of price. So you can literally flag the call right here. You can see, hey, Lisa took this call. The reason they didn't book because of price. You can listen to a recording of the call right there. You can actually leave some of your own feedback here. And we have
Okay.
scripts, which I'll show you in a second, but we have a price script. You can add that into the call right here. and add that there. So when you flag this call to Lisa, when she logs into Callhero, she's going to see a flagged call from you with a recording, with some feedback, with an actual script you want them to listen to, so they can get better on that very next call. And you can actually see if they are reviewing those flagged calls that you sent to them. So
Okay.
yeah,
So just question on that section,
yeah,
like
please.
when team members log in, do they see all the information or only what you allow them to?
Yes, good question. So what I'm showing you right now is what we call the owner and manager point of view. So no, your front desk has their own separate account and they would not see all this intricate in detail data. What they see is really only what they need. So they would see, for example, we have a missed call section. So you can view all of your missed calls and voicemails. Of course, your front desk needs to see that. So now they can view all their missed calls, all their voicemails right here, and you actually know if they're resolving those calls. So that's one thing they would see. And they would also see their Callhero Training Academy, which I'll show you in a second. But no, in essence, they don't get all the same data you do. They just get the few features that they actually need.
Okay.
Yeah, and they would get those training calls that you would send them, of course, that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Any more questions about that section, or that was
Nope.
it?
Nope.
Okay,
That's good.
perfect. So that's how we recommend doing it. Now, I don't know, 7 locations or 6 or 7 is a lot for you to manage there, but how much time, like let's say per week, do you think you'd actually be able to devote to, let's say, training and overseeing your locations there? And no right answer. I'm just curious once again.
Honestly, it depends on the
Yeah,
week.
right. I guess it also depends on the stats too, in some cases, right? If they're really
Yeah, so
bad,
I mean,
yeah.
if I look and I see, okay, you know what, Kim's doing great, this and that, or well, she's not, but who's someone
Yeah,
who's a bit
or
behind
like
her, 85.
Rachel,
Okay,
yeah, she's fine.
Rachel, you
Yeah,
know what, she's doing good. She's only got a couple, not going to worry too much. I think I
exactly.
would focus, depending on my time frame for that week, which once again, it varies every week. I
Yep.
also do payroll for all our locations, so payroll days are like I'm out for 2 days, pretty much doing
Right,
that.
right.
Um, I would basically probably on Mondays or Tuesdays or even Sundays, depending on the weekend, I would just take a quick look and see who's struggling, kind of look at that, work on those ones first, and then review the other ones. And if
Excellent.
there's any that needs that I can just send to the office manager to deal with, I would do that.
Yes, that's another good point there. So you're totally right. I get it varies from week to week. What we've seen has been a really effective tool, which is really good news to most owners and managers you speak with, is that the best and most effective way to train your team we find is only spending about 15 minutes per week per person. Anything more than that is actually a bit of an overload. They have a hard time actually applying it on the next call or the next day. So if you can spend like 15 minutes working with Kim or sending her calls on specific things you want her to work on. So for example, maybe this week, you really want her to work on that price objection. She's struggling with that a bit. You can literally just send her specific scripts for price, give your feedback on that. And once she's figured that out, then you can move on to the next kind of issue she's having. So yeah, about 15, maybe 10, 15 minutes per person who's struggling per week is what we've seen is effective. So like, hour, 2 hour training sessions, people forget 90% of it anyway. So more
Oh,
specific. Yeah.
absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
yesterday I had a Zoom meeting with my office managers in regards to the deposit logs because they were making some errors.
Yeah.
I did up a cheat sheet. It was to the point. I showed them what they need to do, where they're making the errors, moving forward, do this, streamlined everything, gave them a legend for certain, abbreviations, and we were done in half an hour.
That sounds beautiful. That's perfect. Yeah. So then your front desk will appreciate that too, right? They don't want to be on a call for hours getting lectured. So a couple points,
Yeah.
hey, do this, do that. We'll check back next week and see how it's going is perfect. And then last point on this, you mentioned that, you can obviously, down the road, once you see people are really getting it, you can pass off some of these duties. So for example, I mean, I would even get Rachel 85%. She is clearly really good on the phone. She can even listen to some of Kim's calls and train her up themselves.
Yeah.
Oftentimes it does come off better from like one of your peers who's really in the trenches with you. So that's always an option as well moving forward. So yeah, good to hear that could work with your setup there. And the last thing, one of the best ways, as we said, is to actually get in there and train your team yourself. Nobody can sell your clinics like you guys can, right? But we
Yeah.
do have our Callhero Training Academy full of videos and scripts to help your team out. We've analyzed millions of phone calls coming into clinics. We have the data to show what works and what doesn't. So we created a video training library here, just going over the most common situations and objections your team is likely to encounter. I won't go through all these right now, but they're about 4 or 5 minutes long each, nothing too crazy, covering some objections. So for
Oh,
example,
perfect.
a price objection, right? A really common thing that people hear. So one of our experts actually walks your team through what to say it, how to book somebody in, and we have some printable scripts right there should you want that. So you can always have your team refer to that if they're struggling or if you don't even know what to say sometimes yourself. So yeah, with that combination, that should get your team on the right foot there.
Perfect.
Yeah, excellent. So that is the first table here. It really is kind of the foundation of Callhero. I'm not going to go through every single feature and benefit today. That'll take a long time, but there are two more sections I do want to show you quickly that I think you'll find interesting. So what we just chatted about was the booking rate, right? No matter how much training you do, no matter what scripts that we provide you, you're not going to have a 100% booking rate. That doesn't mean that you still can't follow up on some of those lost opportunities and try and win them back. So we created this did not book section here, which shows you all of the new patient opportunities that have called your clinic, showed some interest, actually spoke with someone, but for whatever reason, they didn't book on that first call. What do you
I
guys?
like the names.
Oh, I know. Yeah, yeah. Frank Sinatra, Wayne Gretzky. What do you guys normally do in that situation? Let's say a new patient calls, they talk with them, but don't book on that very first call. Do you ever follow up with them, or do they kind of get lost in the wind, or what happens there?
I mean, it depends on the situation because some
Right.
people, once again, are, tire kickers, right? So they're kind of, okay, well, how much is it? This and that.
Yep. Yep.
If it's a client, like if we get their information and if it's a time thing, we offer a wait list
Yep.
or a cancellation list, to book them in again. Um, it kind of varies on the call, and I'm not there because if it's myself, when someone's calling to book, I'll always look at different options for them, like time frames. I mean, if it's a cost
Mm-hmm.
thing,
Mm-hmm.
I had one woman on the phone, she wanted to book in for vestibular and she was on a tight budget, and vestibular is more costly, no insurance. And so I said to her, I said, well, this is the cost, if you want to maybe budget for it and call back in a bit to book in, you know how much it is. You probably only need 1 or 2 appointments with that, so give us a call back.
Yep.
Give her the option to, she knows the price, so she could kind of budget for that over the
Exactly.
next, whatever her income, situation is, to come back in, as it will benefit her.
Mm-hmm.
So, or we kind of like to say, you know what, we can break it up to give you more home exercises,
Yeah.
stuff like that. I mean, lots of, like I said, I have lots of part-timers, so
Right.
I think they just kind of say, okay, bye.
That's what most people do say. Yeah, and there are
Yeah.
lots of tire kickers out there, right? So, I mean, first of all, I mean, we've tracked all this for you once again, so you don't have to worry about tracking it yourself. We can tell you when those people called, what their actual objection was. You can listen to a recording of that call. So if you did want to call back, you know the tone and what happened on that call, and you have their contact information there. What we've seen as a really effective strategy to actually win these people back is just making it part of your clinic's daily routine and actually following up with these people and just seeing if they got their issues sorted out, right? So it doesn't have to be an annoying sales call. They already called you, so it's not a cold call. And you can say something like, let's say we're calling back Wayne. You can say, hey, Wayne, this is Julian from ABC Clinic. I saw you called us yesterday, but we didn't book you in. It sounds like your knee was in some really bad pain there, so I just wanted to make sure you got that taken care of, right? It's more of a customer
Yeah.
service type call. People really appreciate you actually checking on them, but it has a good impact on sales too. Nicely enough, for example, we've discovered is that, well, actually, let me ask you, theoretically, if you were to call back 10 people who already called you but didn't book on that first call, how many do you think you might be able to win back if you had to take a guess?
I'd say 2 or 3.
That's actually a very good guess. So what we've discovered is that if an owner or a therapist can actually make these follow-up calls, they have about a 40% win-back ratio. If a front desk agent calls them back, they have about a 20% win-back ratio. So your 30%, 40% guess is actually right on the money. As you can imagine, therapists much more confident, much more knowledgeable, and they're able to win back about double that the front desk are. But nevertheless, even if you can get your front desk to win back 20%, that could be 2 new patients a week, 8 new patients a month. It really adds up
Exactly.
over time, right? And this is a fake account, of course, but if you stayed on top of this, it's really only like 2 or
Homer
3.
doesn't go to that clinic?
No, I wish Frank Sinatra came to your clinic, but but if you do this every day, it really doesn't take too long, right? 3 or 4 calls each morning, and you can win about 20, 30,
Yeah.
40% of them back. So do you think that might be something that your therapist could do, or is that more of your front desk, or how do you think that might work?
Right now we do have what we call them callbacks in our
Oh,
fall
great.
off list. So if we have, we look and we check patients who haven't, booked in in a week or 2 weeks, and we give them a call and, how are you doing? Call on behalf of your therapist. I'd have to check with my front staff to see how many people actually book in when they do the callbacks. Like, they're supposed to leave notes in our call logs as to how the call transpired.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we were actually talking about this at our last partner meeting about having the therapist make these calls instead of the front
Yes.
staff. And this just goes to show
Yeah.
that that would make a difference, because it's your therapist. And not that my team, like my clinic aides, aren't beneficial part of the team, but sometimes people, when they talk to their therapist, they just it gives them that more of that warm and fuzzy, right?
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. And if you can get your therapist, I recommend everybody do that. As I said, it's literally double the win back ratio. And it's very honorable. Like, you almost feel honored when a therapist calls you the next day and is checking in to see if you got that help. And they can answer your questions so well, right? Like, so much detail. You really feel confident that they can help you. So that extra $30 that they were kind of contemplating suddenly doesn't seem so much, right? So yeah, definitely a big advantage to have your therapist call back. So yeah, you guys are already seeming like you're on the right page there. Now you just have it all automatically tracked for you, and we can show you. So let's say that I called back Homer, right? And I won him back. You can update the outcome here. So let's say I won back this new client, and I was Lisa today. So I can update the outcome here. So it takes it off your follow-up list, first of all, and it actually shows up on your initial scoreboard page here under your win back performance, because it is such an important metric. So you can see, hey, Lisa, she called back a couple people who didn't book. She won them back, and she actually won us $1,000 or whatever a new client value is worth to you. So another really good metric to keep track of and actually reward your team when you see them doing that, because that has just direct impact on the revenue of your clinic there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so everything's tracked once again for you automatically there. Other than that, Kyla, those are the main sections I did want to go through today. The last one real quick is our marketing section. You mentioned you're doing, what are you guys doing for marketing right now, if you can quickly refresh my memory?
Well, we kind of have various things. Like, we do have Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn.
Right.
We do sponsor some teams, like some local hockey teams and such. Obviously, it's not happening right now.
Yeah, right.
Local papers, like our Sage Creek Clinic, they have Neighbors, kind of local paper thing
Yeah.
that goes out. We did a radio ad with Bob FM. We had done marketing before with the Investors Group Field, so like at Bomber Games, there was some advertising there. So CJOB we've done some with.
Okay. Oh, so lots of different things. Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. And right now, how do you measure how effective they are? Like, do you know how many calls or how many patients are coming from each?
We don't. Like, I mean, we do have a referral. We track referrals when they come in. We always ask people, how'd you hear about us? And so we do have a section for referral sources in our system to put, okay, you know what, they, Facebook, or referred from another client, or previous patient, or certain things like that, or referred from doctor. Like, we do have a section there to track.
Okay. So yeah,
But I know right now we're looking to work with, we've been talking with a marketing company for like Gurgle
okay.
optimization, Google
Right.
search optimization.
Okay. And you thinking that you're going to work with them shortly, you think, or?
Yeah, we've been talking with them. They're kind of a smaller local company that they assist where you want them to, and you don't have to delve into a huge marketing program platform with them.
Oh, cool.
So
Okay.
you can kind of use them as you need fit. Like, they can do our Facebook posting, or they can just create the content and we can continue to do it. Because I utilize Hootsuite, so I can post
Right.
all our pages, right?
Okay. Excellent. So that sounds like a good approach there. Now, what we can do for you here is basically track all of your marketing efforts for you over the phone. And do you know what I speak of when I talk about tracking numbers for marketing? Have you heard of that term before? Or?
No, I have not.
Okay, so tracking numbers is really cool. It's very simple. What a tracking number is essentially a fake phone number you would assign to a specific marketing campaign. And when people call that number, like they see an ad or you send them a flyer, there's hey, call this number for an assessment, then it'll actually get redirected back to your clinic, except now you know exactly where all your calls are coming from, right? So if you have a Facebook ad, you can see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we had done a something with Yellow Pages before, a pay-per-click.
Yep. Yep.
We did that. That was not successful.
Okay. Similar thing, except with phone calls here. So you can see exactly how many phone calls that came in. But better than that, I think your marketing agency, even Google and other companies can tell you, hey, we got you 14 calls from Facebook. That's good. But we can take it all the way down to how many people actually booked into your clinic from that marketing source. So you know exactly how much revenue is being bought in by each marketing campaign. So when you do move forward, you now know with confidence where you should invest more money, where you should take some out, with the data to back you up here, if that makes sense.
Yep, no, it does.
Yeah, pretty simple, right? And we do give you 10 free tracking numbers with Callhero. Usually that's plenty, but with a larger organization like yourself, that might be perfect. So yeah, really easy thing to do to slap on one of your campaigns and see exactly how well that's working there. So now that is everything I wanted to go through today, Kyla. We covered a lot very quickly here. It sounds like you're keeping up just fine, but do you have any questions for me, any concerns, anything you saw we didn't go through, or how's everything sitting with you now that we're coming to a close here?
No, so far it's all really good. I've been taking some notes as well. Like I said, Scott and I are meeting tomorrow to discuss things. So this is something I will go over with him. But yeah, I really like the aspect of being able to see what's happening at each location. And, if I
Yeah,
want to pop in and listen to the calls, like the successful ones, the unsuccessful ones, and just to
exactly.
see how people are on the phones. Because I know sometimes when I call another location, when they answer, like we do have a long introduction, but at the same
Mm,
time, you have to say it clearly so people can hear it. Not, thank you for calling Core Physical Therapy, providing emotion. I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
then you just sound like you're rushed and you don't have time. Like when I call a place and they sound rushed on the phone when they answer right away, I feel like, oh, am I interrupting your day?
It's stressful, right? Yeah.
So.
Exactly. Yeah, no, exactly. So excellent. So if there's no further questions about the actual service, do you mind if I get into the pricing and subscription and all those details, or?
No, I would love to know that.
Okay, perfect. So let me switch my screen here, and I'm going to email all this to you after the call, by the way. So don't
Oh,
worry about,
perfect. Lovely.
yeah, don't do every fact and figure. I'll email that all to you after. But in a nutshell, what we went through today was called the Call Hero Max Plan. And what you get with that plan, we went through the main things: the academy, the training scripts, the answer rates, the booking rates, those win back capabilities, the marketing feature I just showed you, and just overall visibility on how your clinic is performing. A few other features we didn't go through, but those are the pillars of Callhero. The
Mm-hmm.
subscription is pretty simple. So it's on a per clinic basis. It is a month to month contract. So you can continue or cancel as you please. If you do love it, we do offer 10% off for annual payment, but that is totally up to you as you use the system.